Hi, everybody. I am just coming. Okay, it looks like it's working right now.
Hi, everybody. Peggy's
Hi, everybody.
squirrel.
I'm not a squirrel. I'm just making sure my chat works. I see Claire, and I see Kim and Donna as Ozark Oracle. I see Michael Craker.
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle. Oh, my God. I was trying to figure out the last name, so I screwed up the first name. Yeah, I see all the lovely people. All the lovely people. I thought I had these handier than I did. So let's see what this is. There's a thing I was going to look up.
But before you dive into the topic.
Hello.
What did we talk about last week? Do you remember? Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. Oh my God. I'm having a brain cramp. I really am. Oh. What was last week's topic? Seriously?
Oh, this is fun. I should just let you sweat for a bit.
Okay,
Akashic Records.
Akashic Records. Yeah, well, apparently, yeah, no, that's not something I'm getting into because I can't remember what that, yeah. Anybody work on looking at their auras this week? I know a bunch of people had some really like quick and easy success when we were doing the exercise in the live chat last week. But hi, everybody. And I think my chat, it locked up.
Just go back out and come back in. Hi, Keegan.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I cut her hair. I
got a haircut.
That's as long as I like it, which is
not
long.
Yeah, every time my hair starts to look like anything more than stubble, she gets twitchy. She likes me to have you did accidentally shave me bald the one time.
But that wasn't on purpose. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't mean to have the guard off.
She takes the clippers because we just do this at home because it's so easy. She takes the clippers because she likes to do this. Whoop, now you can't change your mind, tee-hee. Except for she went whoop and then went, I forgot to put the guard on.
I felt legitimately bad though.
Yeah, so basically, thank God it grows back fast because I was like, yeah, you could just see scalp. Couldn't see anything. Yeah, we talked about Akashic Records last week, and apparently I'm not smart. I've been super busy the last couple of days because I'm really working on my shop and getting some stuff done. So I have two things. I have two show and tells. I'm looking for the date. I'm not seeing it. This is a copy of the Complete Prophecies of Nostradamus, which is just a copy of his centuries. Which I actually, after making my 5 facts, I found out that his book Centuries, which is what this is. This is what this is actually has a different name in French, and this is just what we call it here. And I don't really know for sure what it's properly called these days. So, yeah, when was this? So this is pretty much the format that you'll see all of the Nostradamus books in, where somebody has given the original French, their English interpretation, and then their English translation, and then their interpretation of what they think it means. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be starting with. Is my chat locked up again? Well, the most recent comment I'm seeing is Amethyst Ascension saying, hi, Donna.
Yep, same.
Okay.
We're good. It's all you're good.
Every week so far, guys, every single time I come in, I start chatting, the chat freezes, and then I have to restart it, and then I panic that it's just continuing to freeze over and over again. So, but you know what else I got? This is something else. This is something that Lisa got me. When did you get this for me? Like 6 months ago. You got this for me a long time ago. I
got it didn't I get it at Northwest Trail Symposium or
this one? No, you didn't. No. You got this. I think you literally found this on either eBay or Amazon.
No, I got it from a physical location. Maybe at a used bookstore.
Maybe Banyan.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember.
Somebody actually made a tarot deck based on this. Nostradamus has no actual connection to tarot, but I just thought you guys would get a kick out of this. Donna's like, we're just sitting here quietly in class. Well, somebody pop off with some comment once in a while, so I know that I'm not talking to dead air. Anyway, so this is one of my tarot decks. I don't have that many tarot decks, so And this is just
Hey, that'd be a fun one to do in Tarot by the Book. Sorry, random. Sorry.
That would be a fun one for you to do on your channel, hon. Now this is I've only actually tried to use this deck once, and it was fun, and I think it was I think it kind of matched with what the question was at the time. But I'm not gonna comment on whether or not it's a good deck to read with, because I really wasn't trying. I was mostly just playing with a new toy. And if anybody who doesn't already know, like I mean, I've been doing tarot off and on since I was like 14, 15 years old, but I am one of those people who is a forever noob. Even, I mean, you do it for a little bit when you're a teenager, and then you do it again. And I think I've almost always had at least one little deck kicking around somewhere. But yeah, I'm a forever noob, so I'm not going to pretend to know anything. Well, I can do readings, but readings, stuff like this, I'm not going to ever say, oh my God, because I don't think I'm qualified. I really don't.
Qualified.
Well,
Anybody's
I'm not going to,
qualified. I said anybody's qualified.
Well, anybody's qualified. Yeah, but you know what? It's like somebody who is always fiddling around with fishing, but has never caught a fish. Right, and that's kind of like.
But you get good reading.
I
just use the guidebook.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing. So different people. I'm not, but you get good readings with or without. You very rarely use the book. You look at the book because it's fun for you, but
that's why I'm doing Tarot by the Book.
That's why you're doing Tarot by the Book, but it changes everything. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. Oh my God, it's our first tangent, kids. This is going to be a shit show. Anyway, so this is the deck that I got. I believe this, yeah, I never put things in order because I'm lazy. So this is very Renaissance.
Show the cards, honey. Oh, you are? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, this is very Renaissance, 1500s kind of a look. The cardstock is not stellar.
Meaning it's crap, but it's okay. It's fine. It's kind of,
you know what? For me, it's okay. Like I said, I'm a forever noob, and I'm not a collector.
It's so funny looking at it on camera. I like it better than looking at it in person.
This is kind of like playing cardstock, a little bit nicer than playing cardstock. And if that's what you're used to, then it's fine. But no, you're not going to get excited about the cardstock. Although the back feels kind of nice. Anyway, so this is yeah. So this is
Did you show the card back, Dave?
I didn't, because I'm not very good about that. Okay, this is my very first ever deck.
Oh, it's Peggy's first walkthrough.
My first walkthrough. I'm not going to do, honestly, I mean, this, I have to guess. That's the 10 of, oh, and for the camera to pick up properly, I'm actually sitting in quite low light. I can barely see this. I think that's the 10.
We can bring the light in closer to you, babe.
Honey, is that the 10 of Wands? Is that the 10 of Wands? Who knows?
There's really.
If it's not,
honey, I think that's the Hermit. That's the 9.
Oh, that's a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the Hermit.
It's okay. Okay. If anybody is super into this stuff, each individual card is listed with exactly what it is in the guidebook. But I didn't spend enough time on the deck, because you know how, like, if you're doing like a really a Rider Waite or something that's really obvious, you can just pick up any deck and go, that's this, that's that. But the more artistic decks, it's a little bit less clear. So this is definitely, if you take a couple minutes to look it up, you'll have no problem telling the suits apart. But I've only ever, like I said, played with it for a few minutes and checked out the book, so I can't necessarily even tell the suits apart. So yeah. So this is just a little fun fact. Hey, nope, that's not, I don't know what that one is. That's the 2 of something. I have no idea what it is.
2 of.
I'm not kidding. I could take a look at the. Okay. It's
no,
not.
I think that's the high. I think that's just the 2. I think that's the high.
Oh, am I still in the? Oh, I am.
You're in the majors. That's why.
Okay, this one says the Fool.
Yeah. Oh, so maybe I'm wrong then, and those are minors. I have no idea. They're kind of weird to look at.
Well, I think that's kind of the part that's what makes this deck fun. That is something okay, no, these are majors, because this one says the star right on it.
Did that other one say no? Because the Roman numerals at the bottom. Oh, that's confusing.
Okay. Just to back up, I'm doing a really shitty deck walkthrough. It's actually, okay. You guys have now been treated to the shittiest deck walkthrough in the history of deck walkthroughs, because I really can't. If you look at the symbol at the very top, that corresponds with the suit. And it's not that hard to figure out, but you do have to take a quick, it's like this with any of the artistic decks. If you're looking at an artistic deck, you'll usually have to take a quick look at the guidebook to see what symbols correspond with what suits. Only I literally just pulled this up back off the shelf again for the first time in 6 months. So I cannot remember, and I'm not going to try. And I said forever noob, right? But yeah, so this is coincidentally, yeah, what's this one? Yeah, see, this is the Lovers. It's got really nice art. I really do actually like the deck. I just, like I said, I'm screwing up on what suits are what because this is an artistic deck. So you do have to do that quick little glance at the guidebook to confirm. I believe the suit is determined by whatever symbol is at the top of the card. So that's going to be the 4 of whatever the sun represents. But again, it's 10 of something. That's probably coins. 10 of something. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying.
This is the
okay,
best walkthrough of life.
It is. It's fine. No, I like I said, I super enjoyed the deck, but this is something I'm holding on to almost entirely for my personal enjoyment as a collection item, and it's probably the only deck I have that I do not and will not use because I like the artwork and I'm literally just collecting it. Did I say that right?
Yep.
I know. Well, lots of you guys lots of you guys have some decks that are strictly for collection purposes. I hope you know what I mean. Anyway, so each of these ones is yeah, so basically like this is the Burning Tower, and in each card a verse from Nostradamus's prophecies has been pulled out to relate to this card. So it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. And that's show and tell. If you guys actually want a real walkthrough, but from somebody who knows what the hell they're doing with a deck of cards, just mention it to Lisa, because you had a bit of the was goodness when you originally got me this, because I don't think this is not really. It's not, I don't think it's even out of print, but it's not necessarily super common or super popular. And I think you had mentioned that you might want to do one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm happy to do one, yeah.
Okay, so that's the babbling. How's everybody doing? We are going to actually talk about this guy instead of babbling on about a deck.
Hey, what's today's topic anyway?
Oh, hey, Y has a birthday tomorrow.
Who does?
Why?
Oh, Y does.
You know,
nice.
Why? Why?
Amethyst Ascension's birthday was a couple days ago.
Oh!
Happy birthday!
Okay, happy birthday, Amethyst. Anybody else? Oh my God, I can do birthday shout outs. It'll be amazing. Okay, so Nostradamus. Nostradamus was born in 1503. His birthday was December 14th, the same as mine. Not the same year, though. No jokes, please. If you're going to tell a joke, at least make it a good one. So this one, yeah. Okay. This particular book, this particular copy from this particular publisher is copyrighted 1947, 1949, 1962, 1964, 66, 68, 69 by Henry C. Roberts, and again in 1982, 1994 by Lee Roberts. So basically, there is a new version of Nostradamus' prophecy that is translated and decoded and published almost every year. There are literally hundreds of these things, because one of the biggest problems with Nostradamus' prophecies is that they were written in French, so they have to be translated, and they were written in rhyme and in code. So so some of these prophecies are, yeah. So we'll get on to that. We'll get there. So he was born in 1503. The Inquisition was still ongoing at the time, which really makes getting facts about this guy difficult, because back in the 1500s, if you took a dump, you had to credit God for the experience, or you could be facing the Inquisition. Everything that you did, said, thought that was even moderately outside of what was considered normal, you could literally be risking your life for doing it if the church decided that you were wrong for doing it. So we have to start with that. So he's born in 1503. Yeah, 1503. He's born in 1503, December 14th, because that's my birthday. That's the only reason why I remember it, and not 1503, December 14th.
I mean, you are older than dirt, so there's that.
Remember that video I did the other day? I can do more. She's giving me the finger because, you know, she wants me to do more videos to put in her Facebook group because that was fun. Okay, I did the video because I'm an asshole, and then I put it in the Facebook group because that was also me being an asshole, but we won't go there. I just realized that no matter how many subs I get, I am never going to be able to monetize this shit because I can't stop swearing. Anyway. Dustin's here. Yay. Oh, Whale Song's here too. Who else came in? Oh, and Carol came in. Okay. So he's born in 1503. Now, it's worth mentioning because of society at the time, but it was also okay. So his father, his father was Jewish, but they converted to Catholicism, which isn't necessarily a big deal by today's standards, but again, the Inquisition ruled everything back then. So basically, Jewish mysticism had a strong relationship to the Kabbalah and things like that. And I don't know. There's some potential. There's some potential links when you look things up, but there's so much shit to look up on this guy that you just really don't know where things are at. So what I was able to find out that makes sense to me anyway, because I'm just mouthing off about my opinions today. Okay, so he's born in 1503. At 14, he enrolls in university, but the university had to be closed because of the plague, like 3 years later. And don't forget, and I mean, education was a whole lot different back then, so do not think of this one with any standardization. And I forget what it said he was going to go for. Something in the medical field. The university closes because of the plague, and he spends the next 8 years working with various apothecaries, which would basically be an herbalist, trying to work on ways to cure the plague, to help people that have the plague survive it, things like that. And he is apparently credited with creating a rose pill that helped act as a preventative to keep people from getting the plague, which there was medicine was not universal back then. So some areas did better at surviving the plague than others. And of course, if an area did better at surviving the plague, it was because whatever natural remedies were available were obviously a little bit more effective. Or it could just simply be that that particular population had a stronger, higher natural immunity. There was no rhyme or reason to it. So there's not really any link there, but he did become well known for it. So at the same time that he's doing this, and he's working with herbalism and working with all this stuff, he then becomes an apothecary, works as an apothecary. He then, like 8 years later, so an apothecary wouldn't necessarily be our version of a pharmacist. Apothecary back then would be like, again, an herbalist, a person who concocts and devises herbal medications for different complaints and stuff like that. And so then he later decides to enroll back into university to become a physician. And whatever the connection is, which is going to require a whole separate bunch of research, the university universities in general, if you had been a practicing apothecary, they would not allow you to become a doctor. And again, I think it's because herbal medicine versus church approved medicine were not necessarily cooperating with each other at the time. So he doesn't have a medical license, but he goes on to decide to become a doctor. He starts practicing medicine anyway. Now, eventually he comes to the attention. Oh, okay. I got back up. At the same time, this is like a pretty dry history lesson. I hope everybody's okay with this. Oh, Summer in Time just showed up, and so did Essence. Hi, the new people. Yes, his pill was actually very high in vitamin C, and he believed in being clean, which were very, very foreign concepts at the time. Anyway, while this is going on, now there's not really a lot given about the link here, but he's working with horoscopes and astrology and things like that. Because back then, certain areas of medicine were considered medical astrology. Certain areas of like the farmers, he started producing a yearly almanac, which would be is considered its own form of astrology, astrology and astronomy, because the term was not used the same way it's used now. Anyway, So he's practicing as he's basically practicing as a doctor, has a good track record for helping people avoid or survive the plague, and he's doing astronomy and casting horoscopes and looking at zodiacs and things like that. He becomes kind of famous in his area, catches the attention of Catherine de' Medici, who is the wife of Henry II, invites him to court to do the horoscopes of her family. And for whatever other reasons, and also appoints him as the physician in ordinary, so the general doctor, to her son, Charles the Ninth. Was it the Ninth?
The Ninth.
The Ninth. Anyway, so now we're getting on to the part that matters. So he's highly in favor with the monarchy, which means he's really well protected from the Inquisition. So this right there, so that little history lesson is kind of, and I get that there's way more details. Some details have been proven, some details are just strictly, who knows? I mean, we're talking 1500, so it's hard to say, right? So basically now we've reached the point where this explains why Nostradamus was able to get so popular, because he was able to get away with stuff that a regular astronomer, and again, certain fields in medicine and weather astronomy for predicting when farmers should plant, what the weather's going to be like, they were all considered to be forms of astronomy or astrology, because witchcraft was illegal. So they had to call it something else, and so they turned astronomy into they turned it into science, as long as it was God-given. Now you're not. It was a loophole. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, I think a couple people came in. So hi everybody who's came in. Okay, so where are we? So that's kind of the history lesson. So up until this point, he started writing almanacs in 1550. So he's like in his 50s now. So he's kind of gotten along. By the time he was invited to the court, he was already famous, but he was also being very, very careful. And so I'm assuming I'm like, he had to have had really, really high up connections, just to avoid the Inquisition up until that point. And then once he became appointed physician to the king's son, then obviously he's properly protected and everything's good to know.
Good to go.
Yeah, Amethyst. Sometimes it's not what you know, but rather who you know, and that is exactly what happened. There is nobody who disagrees on this fact, because people, they were still okay. Now this is where his father being Jewish kind of matters, because this is still during the time when Jews were routinely converting to Catholicism just to avoid the Inquisition, because in Spain, if you were a Jew in Spain, you could be converted by force, by torture. So in other areas of Europe, as the Inquisition was not some blanket thing that happened. It's like it might be in full swing in Spain, but not really such a big deal in France. It kind of ebbed and flowed, right? So obviously, so there's no way to be sure why his family converted, but Jewish mysticism was definitely a thing. So, so I do believe there might have been some connections there. And we're talking about a society when skills, education was all passed down through lineage. If your father was a carpenter, there was a good chance that you were going to be a carpenter. You didn't, classism was an embraced way of life on all levels. So, because there was a very, very strong belief. If you were born in whatever conditions you were born in, that was obviously God's plan for you. So fighting against that made you a problem. He charted the Earth and planets revolved around the sun way before Copernicus. I'm not sure what the timelines are on that. I actually didn't look it up. So I don't know. I believe you. So yeah, if you have any more tidbits on that, that's cool. I was looking at the prophecy stuff. I didn't really look at a lot else. But here's where things get fun. Things start getting fun now, and the conversation starts getting a little bit less boring.
It's not boring.
Yes, Tarot Cat said they may not have completely converted. I think a lot of Jews then converted for show. Well, a lot of Jews in the 1500s were still very much practicing some of the older practices of Jewish culture. And if you look up early Judaism, you'll find connections with the Essenes and with, oh my God, what is the other one? Mystical societies in general, the mysticism around the Kabbalah and things like that. So he's obviously had something like that in his background, because honestly, it's like I said, this belief. I mean, in the United States, they use the concept of manifest destiny to explain colonization, but that idea came from Europe, where manifest destiny was this: anything that's going on is what is God's destiny for you. So yeah, so there has to be more to his story that goes back a generation to his upbringing and whatever, because just doesn't make sense, right? Oh, Carol is my fan. Carol says I couldn't be boring if I tried. Oh my God,
no, she can. Just don't challenge her.
Don't challenge. I can be very.
Just not on
boring.
these chats.
Don't worry. If I start to get boring, I just slip in the odd, yeah, fuck this shit, and I get back on track. It's fine.
Just kidding, love you.
Lisa says, just kidding, love me. She loves me. Yeah, whale song, not to convert and to save you and your family's life was not really a choice. Exactly. So, Jews were very routinely accused of witchcraft back in those days, because their practices, and again, I'll just let's just say mysticism and Kabbalah, those are the two really, really obvious things, didn't match up with current Christian beliefs. So yeah, that routinely, so they converted, and passing on knowledge. Most kids' education happened in the home, not like we send our kids to school to be educated. Most kids were educated at home. There were very, very few schools. So, okay. So where are we? Okay. So I'm just going to say, okay. So this is what I do when I'm thinking. If I'm trying to think, it's like, okay, let me just think. Let me just make repetitive noises. Yeah, I'm not boring, but you're going to be smashing your head against the wall in a minute. But anyway, where we're at right now is he's built up his fame over the years, and he's done so carefully, obviously carefully, so that the queen can reach out and say, hey, come and read our horoscopes. Casting horoscopes was considered a science. So it was not prophecy. It wasn't fortune telling. Well, no, God put these up here, and the people who know how to read them are, it's like because, it's like reading a book. Only certain people learn how to read and write, while reading the stars, only certain people learn how to do that. This is how it was presented. It was presented as a science. So predicting the future as a science. Now it's really interesting, because there is some science behind astrological movements predicting certain weather patterns. We've discovered that there's a pattern to sunspot activity, and so we can predict high and low cycles. And when you know the sun is going to be on a high level of sunspot activity, you're more likely to have a hotter than average year. There's a fact. So this is how he was able to prophesize openly by disguising it as science. So by the time he starts writing this little guy, he has done over 6,000 prophecies, because he used astronomy and astrology to scientifically predict local events and things like. So a lot of his original stuff was the original 6,000 ones, the 6,000 or so that he did. What a lot of that was like, well, blah, blah, blah. In this summer, this prince is going to fight against this prince, and this prince is going to win, because the science, and this is how a lot of thinkers at that time were able to get through. It's like, no, I'm exploring a science. So, I'm not a prophet. Don't call me a prophet. No, that's not, no. God creates prophets. I'm just learning science. This is how he got through it. He wrote a letter to his son, and that's kind of what he explains, right? Is what he explains in this letter to his son is that, yes, I'm prophesizing the future. Yes, this is what I'm doing to prophesize. But then he explains some of the other stuff he's doing to create prophecies. And I didn't save the link.
For
Nostradamus wrote a letter to his son, Caesar, Cesar. And in this letter, he explains a lot of what he was doing, why he was doing, and how he was doing it, because
Oh, I've got it here.
This is confusing as fuck.
Do you want to be able to read it?
It's very long. It's very long.
Do you want me to just scroll it or put the link up?
Yeah, put the link up if anybody wants to read it. It's kind of long.
Letter from.
Yeah, most everything in late prophecy is from astrology and looking to the past as the part is doomed to repeat itself. Ding, 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 ding. You took basically in his letter to his son, he explains how he had made it a practice of finding centuries-old books and manuscripts. He explained two things. He explained how he performed his pyromancy, because what he would do was do astrology and then meditate on it over the flames, because then it becomes science and not magic or fortune telling or anything like this, because it was the death sentence. Fortune telling and things like that were an automatic death sentence in the 1500s. So there's that. That's cute. That's just fun times, and it's kind of hard. It's really hard to relate how society was then when we're coming at it from what we consider normal in our society was like death sentence crap in his. And that's a really, you got to keep that in mind, because it's not just as simple as he should have done the thing. Yeah, if you just want to put that over the whole thing.
Oh yeah. That way anybody watching it back, if they really want to just watch it or read it here, they can.
Okay. Anyway, okay. So number one, there are people who there are very few people who are willing to believe that this letter is real and that it's and say that it was written after his death. It was written in the 1800s. It's a forgery, and we don't know. There's no way to really know. Apparently he wrote several letters to his son, and this is just one of them. And we don't know. We have no way of knowing what the truth or not is. Anyway, in this, basically he's explaining what this is. And this is stuff. Basically, what he said about this is that he was writing it, for starters, he wrote it in French. So if you don't know how to read archaic French, you're already screwed from the get-go, and you have to rely on people translating it, which is what we do in this country. But he wrote it in rhyme and in code, and made everything intentionally vague as well. So he's got three layers. But in the book he says that people are going to be interested in this because they'll always want to use this for their own gain, which is why he hid the true meanings. And that as time progresses and people use the key, because apparently he educated his son in such a way that his son would understand how to decipher what this really means, and that once you understand the key, that these prophecies become very plain and very clear. So now we're stuck with this shit show. This is the part where it gets really, really weird, though, because very few. Okay, let me back up. He was very, very successful at successful prophecies, successful predictions, astrological predictions while he was alive, predicting local events, local outcomes, like things that he could point back and say, well, this is how I figured it out. As long as he had a pseudoscience of an explanation for it, he couldn't be accused of witchcraft, and he had friends in high places, so he was good to go. So yeah, so he used the prophecy for he used the prophecy is from astrology, but he also, in his letter to his son, so I'm gonna try and harp on that and not get too all over the place. In his letter to his son, he was pretty clear that he used astrology. He used information from astrology that anybody else can figure out, and once they figure it out, they can understand what time frames and who and everything about who his predictions are referring to. Yeah, he said this in his letter to his son. And he also said that he made it vague intentionally to keep people and powers from using it for their own advantage. And then he quotes the Bible. He makes reference to the Bible where it says, "Don't throw your pearls before swine, lest they swallow the pearls and turn on you." So it's like, yeah. So basically, he's explaining to his son that these are really valuable prophecies, but the people would gain the wrong people would gain too much power from having a clear understanding of them. And then he goes on, but then he goes on to say, and this is the part that's really neat in this book. He explains two things: that he made it a point of searching out and reading really, really, really old texts, like centuries old books, ancient works, reading them, and then burning them, because being caught with these, they were forbidden books. He made a point of reading books that the church had banned, and lest some and he talked about book. He was constantly reading books on the occult. What did you do?
Why do you have to if I did something?
What did she do?
I didn't do anything.
You like burning stuff too? Is that what you just said? Do I need to turn this camera around?
No.
Do I need to turn this camera around?
My hair's not dead.
Your what?
My hair's not dead.
Your hair's not dead.
Yeah.
You can't. Now there's mine.
Yours doesn't need to be dead.
Dead. Her hair's not dead. Anyway, okay. So basically, what he's admitting to his son is that he is looking up books. He is studying books of the occult that are so freaking problematic that if he were to be caught with these books, they would burn him at the stake as a witch, or whatever the punishment was at that time in France. And so he's like collecting all these books and learning about the occult, and then he's burning the book. And so, yeah, so he's basically admitting that this is not just astrology. And yeah, like Dustin said, basically his entire predictive model is based on history repeating itself. So yeah, so basically that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Any questions so far? It's like, so finding out that, but he was also talking about, feeding the words to Vulcan, which is burning them, and contemplating. There was another fire. Anyway, he was a pyromancer. He did most of his predictive work by doing the astronomy part, the astrology part, and then contemplating that and letting the flames give him the answer. So he is basically crediting a mix of practices that to him, for his practice, created a whole. And he literally states in this letter to his son that, I put it together this way. I made it vague. I burned these books because lest whatever, I forget exactly what he said, but then it makes it clear that it's the Inquisition. So that's where we're at, and that's Nostradamus in a nutshell. So yeah, honestly, I learned a few tidbits about him too. I knew that he was a pyromancer, but when you just read this, it doesn't really talk about that, because this is just his predictions. And you know what he predicted? He predicted that this would survive the centuries. That was in his letter to his son. He said, I know that people are going to make a study of this from now until not the end of time. I forget exactly what he stated. He said, so what he said is, people are going to make a study of this, and people are going to consistently and continually get the wrong answers, which is why people are going to consistently and continually get the wrong answers, which was exactly what's happened. Every single year, every single tabloid. What did Nostradamus predict for this year? Nostradamus says this is going to happen. Nostradamus, we see it every year. Who has not seen this every year? Did he go by a time type cycle or an event cycle model of neither for history repeats itself? He didn't admit it. Kind of like he's making it very clear that history repeats itself, but he's like, what he basically says, history is going to repeat itself. The last time it was a flood. This time it's warfare. And that's already in the Bible. Yes, honey?
I have a page up that talks about some of his predictions that have come true.
Okay.
It'll be showing on your screen, but the first one is the death of Henry II.
Yeah, so Henry II was essentially his patron. And yeah, he did predictions for the royal court constantly. And I think he got that one right. Did he not?
It says, the prediction was the young lion will overcome the older one on the field of combat in a single battle. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. 2 wounds made one, then he dies a cruel death.
Yes.
And it says King Henry II lined up to joust some other dude.
He lined up to joust somebody else whose crest was also a lion.
Yeah, both have lion emblems on their shields, yeah.
Yes, and the lance broke, and a splinter of it because the lances break when you joust. A splinter of it, yes, a splinter of it, a splinter of it went into, I just forgot who it was, but a splinter of it went through the visor and into his eye and into his brain.
Yep.
And he died a few days later.
The Great Fire of London. Do you know about that prediction?
Yeah, he predicted that one. He also predicted.
His prediction was the blood of the just will be demanded of London, burnt by fire in the year 66. The ancient lady will fall from her high place, and many of the same sect will be killed.
Yes. And I believe that was references to certain churches that burned, and some of those church.
Also said the blood of the just could refer to the millions of rats that were killed. But I don't know if that's true or not.
See, this is the thing. Every single person wants to put their own spin on it. The blood of the just, when the fire of 1666 swept through, it ruined like a third of London.
What about the French Revolution? Apparently he predicted that. From the enslaved populace, songs, chants, and demands, while princes and lords are held captive in prisons, these will in the future by headless idiots be received as divine prayers. And it says the peasants took control of Paris after they had enough of poor aristocratic rule. Aristocracy.
See, you should have been over here today.
Oh man. Yeah, we're taken from power and locked in the
Bastille.
And beheaded.
Yes. That is definitely
headless idiots received.
Headless idiots, because some people fought to protect basically it was like the peasants revolted, but obviously everybody else, it was a civil war when you come right down to it.
What about what about Hitler?
Hister, Hister. That's how he said he commented about somebody named Hister and talked about the years that he would come into power.
It's right here. From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the east. Beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister. Into a cage of iron will the great one be drawn when the child of Germany observes nothing.
Yeah.
That's trippy.
Okay, so some of basically what Nostradamus said was that most of his predictions aren't going to be recognized until after the fact. But, and this is okay, tell me I'm wrong. Most of his predictions are not recognized until after the fact, and as more and more predictions come true that people can definitively point out and go, 1666, there was a fire. People are trying, basically, it's been recognized for years and years and years that there's some sort of a code at play in this book, in his prophecies, and people have been desperately trying to crack that code. And basically in his letter to his son, he said, as time progresses, as more and more of these prophecies are proven to be true, more and more people are going to sit up, take notice, put the work into solving the problem of the code. Well, okay, I'm going to say the code. He's basically the French version of in 1500s the English, there was Shakespearean English, and then there's like archaic French. It's very flowery and it's a whatever. But yeah, so that's definitely happening. But every single year one of these books comes out, and every single year everybody tries to decide what things are going to mean based on what their current social and political situation is. So so not to be a downer, what's the point of giving vague predictions that cannot be acted on? He explains this. Or is it just to prove that it can be done, or did I miss something? Earlier on, I'm not sure if you came in from the beginning or not. I'll start over because we don't care. It's fun. Basically, what he said is that he's making them in code. He wrote a letter to his son, and in the letter to his son, he explains that this last book of his, this was the last thing he wrote. He wrote 5 years of almanacs. He wrote 6,000 other predictions. He wrote this book, so that it would not be suppressed under the Inquisition. He said it needed to be in code, or the Inquisition would just destroy it utterly. It needed to be in code so that people wouldn't use the predictions to their own advantage, mostly to protect from the Inquisition. He predicted that the book would become famous, that scholars would study it. He predicted all of this stuff. But he also predicted that as time wears on, because he says that he used a code, an astrology-based code, and basically says that as time wears on, that people will basically start breaking the code of the book, and his predictions will get more and more clear, more and more blunt, and easier to understand, so that it becomes less and less about guessing and more about just deciphering. Did I say that? Did I say that right? Is that making sense? I hope that makes sense. So this was supposedly in a letter that he wrote to his son, because supposedly, that he made sure that his son had the information that he needed to decrypt the book. But the Inquisition was still active at the time, so even the Inquisition was still active at the time. So most of what he did could have been a death sentence if he wasn't already a favorite of the royal court. So yeah, it's a completely different society than with like I can say whatever the fuck I want. I'm saying it on a video right now, and no church or government or social organization is going to come to my door and torture me to death to get me to confess that I'm practicing witchcraft or somehow being evil. Like, so it was the societal norm. Putting things in code was actually a really common thing to do back then among educated classes wanting to share information that the church wouldn't approve of. It was very common. There's even like, that's where like what happened? That's even like, okay, like the Da Vinci Code and all that stuff. Like, I know that's the book, but Da Vinci and other great thinkers of the time, they would have entire books of involving hard science, entire books written that as if they were just making fun of something, because it was okay to make fun of something. Now you're not advocating for witchcraft or evil acts. But they couldn't just say, yeah, the earth revolves around the sun, guys. Like, they couldn't say that. You'd get executed. So yeah, it was really like hard time. It was really, really dangerous times back then. Not fun, not easy. Yeah, seeing if people crack the code is definitely something to look forward to. This is what he talks about. So basically, we've got this very confusing book and some surprisingly accurate and detailed predictions that have come true, that we go, that happened. And the stuff that we can look at for sure and go, that came true. It's like, it didn't just come true. Like he said, in 66, a fire and the innocent and the good with the evil. And it's like, that's like entire neighborhood. I don't know how many people died in that fire, but you've got to remember is that like, if you say, oh, the town burned and 500 people died, that's an utter catastrophe in a society where a large town might only have 1,000 people in it. So I know, okay, like if there was a major fire in a city like New York City, actually there was a nightclub fire in, where was it? Some Indonesia. It wasn't in the United States. There was a nightclub fire. It was just a single venue. And there was a fire and like several hundred people died. It was barely a blip on the news because we're talking about a city with 20 million people in it. But when you live in a society where 20 million people is like probably not far off from being the population of all of Europe. So we also have to think in scales. Am I saying that right? We have to think in a scale. So some of his predictions don't necessarily refer. So yeah, every prediction that has come true has been so definitive and provable, and then you realize that you also realize that it's quite detailed. So yeah, so that's the thing. That's the Nostradamus conundrum right there. And then there is it's in code. So any idiot, including me, can go, well, I think it means this. I think they mean, hand me another beer. I'm decrypting this thing. And it's like, so.
You don't drink beer.
No, I don't drink beer.
You don't really drink anything.
I drink water. When was the last time I drank anything?
It's been a really long time.
Last year? Oh, well, that's only like a month ago.
I drank last year.
Yeah, I don't bother. I cannot be. I am enough of an asshole on my own time that I just don't need alcohol. It's like, why spend the money? Okay. Yeah, so this one here. So you've got the French, and it's archaic. It's not modern French. So it's kind of like us reading Shakespearean English. It takes a certain degree of experience and skill. So the English translation, translated by whoever happened to be muddling through the French. So centuries 4 verse quatrain 80, near the great river, a great pit, earth dug out. In 15 parts, the water shall be divided. The city taken, fire, sword, blood, cries, fighting. The greatest part concerns the Colosseum. Okay, so that's Rome. Colosseum is in Rome. Okay. In Rome, there shall be a great tumult and fighting concerning in most parts a revival of ancient ideas. Okay. But it could be anything. It literally could be anything because we don't have the context. But if a new cult, a new I don't know if you want to call it cult. So if a new group emerges that advocates for worshiping the old Roman gods, comes up and starts a riot near the Colosseum, you've now got a prophecy that came true. So it gets confusing. Some of these are some of these are considered to have happened, even though this is supposed to be all about the future, and some of his prophet, it gets weird. Anyway, so Nostradamus himself. Yeah, I don't always filter on a day-to-day basis, let alone with a little alcohol on board. No filter at all. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, you know what? I used to. Back in the days when I never drank a lot. I don't want to say too many alcoholics in my family, but when I was younger and going to parties with my cousins and stuff, a couple of them were alcoholics. So you don't have to have some major traumatic experience, but if you've got this cousin who's like it's like, I don't want to be like that guy. And I could drink way more than I should have been able to drink and not even feel it. So it's like spending a lot of money, barely getting a buzz, and I don't want to be that guy. So it's like, whatever. And I was already having a good time whether I drank or not. So yeah, somewhere in time is Carolyn, right? Did I get it right?
Caroline, yes.
I have to ask every time Caroline, and I don't know why. I am just so bad with names that apparently I'm just going to carry the habit online. The masses of people at the time were taught to be closed-minded for fear of death. And the funny thing is that the educated classes were amazingly open-minded, hence the codes. Everything was in code. It's like one of these days I'll have to do a little thing on the Voynich manuscript. People wrote entire books in code because if those books were ever found, it was an instant death sentence. And some of those books have been decoded. Most of them haven't. It's like, it's crazy. Apparently I do this a lot. Yeah. I'm gonna look at the camera. I'm gonna read something. There, let's do this. Let's do the old lady thing.
No, don't do that. Don't stop it.
Oh, fine.
It's the mouth thing that's really problematic.
You have to. When your glasses are at the tip of the nose, you have to go. It's a rule.
Look at your chat. You have a question.
Did his son pass down the code? I don't know. I actually didn't find any reference of his son's. Like, okay, he mentions his son, but I didn't find any. I was probably just looking in the. Okay, let's back up. When you look up Nostradamus, you find out that everybody with an opinion is all about Nostradamus. Almost. I came close.
You got it.
You're going to be hearing this massive belt sooner or later. I can feel it. It's like right there. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to Wilson's comment in a second. Okay, so it's mentioned that he had 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, but I didn't find any reference to whether or not any of his descendants are still living. I have no idea. And don't forget, he was married with 2 kids, and his wife and both of his children died in a plague outbreak. And then he remarried and had 6 kids. His greeting to his son is, "Hi, my son, blah, blah, blah. I really hope that you live to adulthood," because his son was still young when he wrote it. And it's like, I hope the future finds you alive and healthy or something like that. I mean, he lived in a time when we make jokes about plague cards, but he lived in a time when that was reality. So I don't know. I have no idea if his family even survived.
Oh, I have a really fascinating.
Okay, well, Whale Song says, did his son pass on the code? And then also mentions, I think the only educated was a small population, and the church doctrine educated the majority to their own agenda. Exactly. Church doctrine at that time was anything a priest told you was the infallible word of God truth, period, and stop. And so many, every village had its priest or its bishop or its whatever, and they outranked everybody else in the town. Yes, dear.
I was trying to grab you before you moved on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The code thing, I actually have a link that I'm going to put up where somebody's basically got some theories about that code and how to break it down using some different word code tricks. So anyways, I'm going to throw it in the thing. People might want to see it.
Caroline's going to buy a magnifying necklace because she can't stand putting on reading glasses on and off. Usually I'm either at the sewing machine or at the computer and I don't have to worry about it, but I'm looking up to the camera and everything's blurry, but I need them to look down. But Lisa gets upset. She gets upset. Like, I don't see what's wrong with this. It's working.
It's not even perched on your ears properly.
It's on my nose. No, it's not supposed.
It's literally sticking away.
She doesn't like it. I don't know why.
Because it's not. You're not wearing your glasses properly.
I can see when I look down. I can see when I look up. I can see. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this right. I'm winning.
Put them on your ears and then slide them down.
Do you not like the way I think this makes me look sexy. I really do. I think this makes me look absolutely awesome. She is so just doesn't even want to talk to me right now, and I don't know why. I love you.
I love you too.
I said I love you. She goes, I love you too.
I did not.
You did so. You did so. You're like sneering at me. I love you too. Roll your eyes. This is why I'm mean to you. Okay. Yeah, see, Whalesong does the same thing. You're not bitching out Whalesong?
I'm not married to Whalesong.
No, you're married to me, and I look fucking awesome when I do this. I'm fine. Oh my God. She's thinking of what to throw at me, I can tell. Okay, so yeah, at least I wear my glasses, Lisa. Lisa is supposed to wear glasses. Do you know what she does? Lisa's like this. Lisa is like this.
I did not.
Dude, I have a picture of you doing that.
Stop! I am gonna throw something.
And you know what? I can't see any better when I do that, so I don't know why you do it.
I'm gonna kill you.
Gonna murder my face with my face again? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, I hit the thing.
It's fine to put your reading glasses.
Yeah, Amethyst Essential is doing the same thing.
Huh?
Amethyst Essential is doing the same thing.
I bet they do it right though. You do it weird.
No. They're saying this. Go read the comments. She is so busy glaring at me that she can't even read the comments. Oh, and she's not wearing her glasses, so she probably can't see them anyway. Okay. Anyway, so where are we at with Nostradamus? The funny thing is that he's got.
Oh my God! They're all selling me out in chat.
Absolutely, you deserve it. You deserve it. See?
Does she move the object closer and farther away? Yes, I do.
Yes, she does.
Because I'm in denial. And that's
but I look funny when I have my glasses tipped so I can see.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you look funny. I just
how do I look? How do I look?
But
But basically, if anybody's got hair, that doesn't show up. I can't help that.
Oh.
I'll just let my hair grow out.
No.
Yeah. I'll get a curly little bouffant.
What did you say? You'll get a what?
A bouffant.
A bouffant?
Isn't that 1950s?
You'll get a bouffant and a divorce in the same fell swoop.
Oh, now the truth comes out.
Okay, I'm distracting you.
I want to wear a pink dress and have
nice. No, you do not.
Okay.
You want to see Lisa's head explode? Put on a pink dress.
Really?
No, that was sarcasm.
Literally?
That was sarcasm.
You sure?
You're such a jerk.
Should I turn the camera? Okay, Can I turn the camera now? Can I turn the camera now?
No. Do your live. Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Now you guys know why I mess with her. But I can't turn the camera?
No.
Are you sure? Are you leaning in close enough to read that text without your glasses there, honey?
Stop talking to me. Nostradamus.
Let's turn the camera.
Don't you dare.
Okay. She's like, get back on track, you asshole. Yeah, and an apron with high heels. Exactly. I think
you with an apron is the problem.
I think if I totally went 100% super femme,
you'd be
that my wife would love me more.
Nope, divorced. I'm divorced.
Divorced?
DIVORCE.
Are you sure? What do you really think about that?
Did I stutter? Okay, we're still distracting. Don't help, Whale Song.
She's like so busy laughing. I don't think she could type if she wants to. She's gonna start yelling at stuff. Well, you know what? I yell in the background on your chats. It's only fair that you get to once in a while on mine. Anyway, okay. So where are we with Nostradamus? So
nowhere. We're nowhere.
We're nowhere with Nostradamus. So the really interesting thing is, so according to Nostradamus, there's a code. According to everybody who's ever read this, there is a code. At least the most people who have taken the time to be interested in this, and like I said, it's this particular book. He's written thousands of these. So this book is his prophecies for the future, leading up to the end of the world, the return of God to earth, the golden age, things like that. And we have no, and according to what he has to say, it'll get, according to what he has to say on the matter, things will get more and more obvious as time goes on. And then sooner or later, somebody is literally going to decipher the code of it so that anybody can figure it out. Anybody can read it. So it's like, and I think that's what keeps a lot of people going. The interesting thing that, I don't know if it's a controversy or not a controversy. I don't think there's a lot of controversy here, actually. Okay. During Nostradamus' lifetime, the biggest controversy was that he was reading. What happened?
Nothing, I'm just behind. It's fine.
Peggy, yes, an apron with high heels, but you have to still wear your glasses at the end of your nose. Exactly. Like that. In my pink shirt. I'm going to go get a pink shirt.
See you when you get back.
80s makeup, big pie hair.
You'll be gone a while, but
I used to have, did you guys know I used to have hair down to my waist? Way back.
We don't talk about those days. Those were dark days.
But I've got super fine hair, so it was just really long, because no matter what I did to try and curl it or do whatever back in the day, it would just like fall apart. I used to have a poodle perm though. Oh my God, I think she just puked in her mouth. She can't. All right, what you doing, honey? Wear it really long. We'll get that 80s poodle perm going.
I will shave it in your sleep.
Well, you shaved it while I was awake. You tried to.
Good luck trying to grow it out.
Funny thing is, I used to do perms back in the 80s because my hair was super fine. It would do one thing, and that's hang perfectly straight, and that was about, not perfectly straight, but anyway, I used to get the odd perm back in the 80s, but I've never dyed my hair. Never, not once. Yeah, with my crown. Exactly. So, yeah. So basically, talking about Nostradamus, the prediction is that I'm probably going to be dead by morning if I keep talking about wearing pink. And
no, it's okay. You just bought me a new sewing accessory. Keep it up.
What?
I'm over here with the computer. It's at Amazon at my disposal, and you're going to mess with me? Keep it up. I used your credit card. BT Jobs.
So basically,
what is this, an inquisition now?
So basically, the topic is Nostradamus, and you are punishing me by shopping online.
Online shopping revenge, I think, is a very appropriate response right now.
How are you coping?
I have my bag of discount M&Ms and my Fresca. I'm just like a picture of hormonal bliss over here. But you want to keep messing with me? That's fine.
I love messing with you. It's fun.
All right. You should probably talk about Nostradamus.
I'm trying to, but you just keep being funny.
You're going to keep messing with me? I got some more shopping I can do with your credit card over here.
Can I have your wallet?
The credit card's in the account.
Can you just turn off that computer?
No.
So this is what Lisa at the command center looks like. Candy, pop, hair not done, Oh, and the dog, Shayla, just derped out on a pile of stuff to the side because she's like, just leave me alone, you
You
idiot.
guys can see my quachi over there too.
It's Sunday, so you guys see the thing, Friday starts and nothing gets cleaned until Monday.
That's how it works.
It's bad.
Like, legitimately.
Okay. You done?
Shopping or what? Are you done messing with me? She puts
I'll be
her
fine.
glasses down low.
I'll be fine.
We're not talking about Nostradamus anymore at all.
Let me come over there and just.
And with this essential Lisa saying that with some crazy eyes, I would start backing up slowly. Legitimately so hormonal.
Just a little bit. Okay, I will turn the camera back around. You know, I missed a prime opportunity to scratch my ass while the camera wasn't pointed at me. I don't know why I didn't just take advantage of that. Now I have this magical itch that just probably isn't going to go away for an hour.
You know, this is the most replayable live chat you've done yet.
Well, I scratched my ass anyway, but you guys are fine. I don't think anybody noticed anything. Okay. Nostradamus was born in 1503.
Good luck recovering.
Good luck. I am not recovering this because, yeah. Okay. So what I found out that was really interesting. There's actually there's a lot of information about him, but there's also a corresponding lack of information about him, and it's really, really weird. So he made it a point of collecting books that he shouldn't have been collecting, that anybody else would have been executed for owning. And even in spite of, okay, he collected books, read them, and then burned them at a time where he enjoyed royal protection. It's called, I think they refer to it as patronage, when he's basically got a position where he's seeing the queen and her son, the future king, regularly. So, and even he would not risk being caught with these books. So as soon as he was done reading them and had learned all he could from them, he burnt them. And the prophecy, the current stuff, he would say, well, this is the horoscope. He would basically blame it. He would blame it all on horoscope. So he's not fortune telling. He is not engaging in witchcraft. And yet he details to his son collecting certain ancient tomes that he would then burn once he read them. And he was making comments about how he would contemplate over the fire after doing a chart. And the funny thing is, the one reference that I did find, and this is kind of the thing where you go, wait a minute. The one reference that I did find is that astronomers of the day, the complaint they had about him was that his when he was casting horoscopes, he was very bad at it. So he's claiming that it's scientific. He's claiming that it's based on scientific principles, but the people who looked at the horoscopes that he cast said that his horoscopes were no good. A lot of he used to give people predictions based on their horoscopes, but he made them. He would not cast he often would not cast the horoscope and would only predict the results because he wasn't any good at it. And yet in his public life, he claimed that that's where he got his predictions from. So he was definitely doing something a little bit more than predictions. Lisa, what are you doing? Are you off making yourself some food?
No.
What you doing?
Nothing.
She got up and she walked away, and I'm hearing her in the kitchen. It's like she's like, screw you.
Bye.
Can you see everything okay?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yep.
What you making?
Something
to wash down that chocolate that you ate?
Yeah. Shut up.
Did you expect not to get caught?
No.
That means yes.
No.
That means yes.
Look, do you want me here or shopping? Choose.
Yeah, whatever you're doing is probably cheaper than shopping.
Probably.
You should probably just stay in there.
Thanks, Rabbit.
Can you just stay in there?
Sure.
Shayla gets down off the couch. It's like, yeah, she's going to come stomping back in a minute. I need to. Hi, baby girl. That's my puppy. Shayla, usually it's Bruno coming up here going, I need to be the center of your attention right now. I don't know what Will Song is. He was most likely bad at it because he believed the sun was at the center and all others believed the earth was at the center. Funny thing is that I don't think that's what I cannot remember, but he was more, he definitely knew more than that. he was looking up books. He was finding books on occult, any occult. He was basically learning about occultism on his own and incorporating that into what he was doing, because a lot of the people that cast horoscopes and used the science of astronomy at the time were way less successful than he was. What? Imagine having to do that today with tarot deck, study the deck and then burn it. No way. Oh my God. Could you imagine that?
Nope.
Lisa has spoken. I don't even get to finish this. I was like, no. She would burn me before she'd burn a deck.
Accurate.
Hey.
What? You said it.
Pretend to think about it for a minute first. Jeez. So it's like sooner or later one of us is blinking for help.
I did that like yesterday.
Yeah, we ignored that. It was fine. Anyway. Yeah, Wellsong was to the church's benefit to keep the masses ignorant under their thumb. Hence, he had to burn the books. The Inquisition was in full swing. Like, if you want to talk about religious fanaticism, Like, I mean, we could probably do a chat on the Crusades, because one of the Crusades was a crusade of fanatics, farmers, religious people. They literally got together an army that was made up almost entirely of just religious fanatics to go take Jerusalem, because Jerusalem belongs to God, not the pagans. And between disease and having and being pretty much completely unsuited to just survival, and they were wiped out. I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. Anybody who's like super into that sort of stuff. Yeah, I wonder in what way were they no good on a personal horoscope or predictive. I would have to look at the, you know what? I'd have to look up the reference again. But basically, he was criticized for the inaccuracy of his. Basically, what the idea was is that he would cast a horoscope, and a lot of us, most of us, I hope, know what that means. Where you like, you know, what is your, you know, based on your date of birth and all this stuff. This is where all the planets and how everything worked. And apparently he was no good at that. But yet he claimed that that was his study of science that he used in order to make his predictions. So clearly he's not using astronomy, and astrology is his excuse for his prophecy work, because calling yourself a prophet was a guaranteed death sentence back then. If you were not engaging in scientifically, and don't forget, science was different then than it is now. Science was more putting something under an umbrella where the church isn't going to criticize you for it. So astronomy and astrology back then, yeah, he was a crappy astrologer who couldn't cast a horoscope to save his life, apparently. I would have to look it up. I cannot remember where those references came from, because I was looking up a bunch of, you know how you do the, it's like, I want to refresh my memory on this guy, so I'm going to look up a bunch of stuff. And it's like 2 hours later, you're going, what was that shit again? It's like, whatever. Yeah, so apparently there was always a degree of criticism about the accuracy of his horoscope. So basically, if you were born on this day, then Mars should be in this house, and he'd have it in the wrong house, because he just didn't. That's not what he was not using astrology. He was not using horoscopes. He was disguising what he was really doing. That's the consensus. Whatever he. So the people who want to believe that Nostradamus is just a fake is like, that proves that his predictions are crap. The people that are going, too many of his predictions make sense here. So the astrology and astronomy was just the label he was hiding his real practices behind. And he admits to his son, he admits in letters to his son that he was a pyromancer. He basically admitted that he was using fire, pyromancy, because he was talking about people contemplating things in a mirror or over water, and that he contemplated things in the fire, and the images would form before him. So, how's my puppy? You look like you're having a good time. This is my puppy. This is the bratty princess. What she does is she lays here with her feet against somebody, because if you stop, she kicks you until you start back up again. Unless she decides she's not going to do it because she knows I'm trying to show somebody. She is like, she makes you. You ever have one of those a kid or a pet that makes you a liar? Anyway, so yeah, the Crusades were from 1095 to 1492. One of the Crusades was basically zealot. Oh, there she goes. One of the keep doing. Yeah, the camera's back on you. You don't embarrass yourself now.
Now you're torturing the dog with the camera.
Yeah, we got it on camera. She's kicking me. So yeah, so we've got the well-rounded military crusades, but we also have several waves of people who clearly have no idea what they're doing. We're talking about a time in human history where farmers had wooden pitchforks, like where and they're just religious. What did I do? Did I mess up the camera?
No, you're fine. Do you have your hat?
My witch's hat is.
I was gonna grab it for you. I was looking for it.
Oh, are we getting to that time? Anyway.
Almost. So I'm not trying to rush you. Just let you know.
I think. Okay, so I basically tried to be the history lesson today, which is probably a waste because I would decide to torture.
It's awesome.
I decided to torture my wife instead, so that was fun.
That part not awesome.
No, it was awesome. It was epic. Messing with you on. You had no problem getting up to get yourself a snack. So where's my hat?
I didn't get a snack. I was prepping your dinner. You ungrateful.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally ungrateful. That's fine. I'll be okay. Anyway.
Egypt, Greece, and many other civilizations knew forever, but Copernicus mathematically proved it in 1545, then Kepler, then Galileo.
Yeah, so Copernicus mathematically proved that the Earth revolves around the sun in 1545. Well, Nostradamus was born in 1503. So yeah, I mean, basically, the two biggest things about. Okay, I think it makes sense that this is. I think his claim that this was written in code makes sense, because he was alive and active during the Inquisition. There were plenty of people at the time who enjoyed the protection of royal patronage, but if they ever lost favor, were immediately like, you lose the favor of the king, then you're probably twice as likely to be dragged before the Inquisition, and nobody's going to protect you. So he had reason to put this in code. I think his letter to his son makes sense. I don't know. People that want to believe that Nostradamus was just a big old fraud and that this is just some fantasy that's lived on they're the first to say that letter wasn't real. I don't know if that letter was real or not, but I do know that every time something happens that World War II with Hister, once that happened, of course, there's a renewed frenzy of interest in the books in his book again. His prediction that this was going to carry on through the ages has so far been correct. For the last 500 years, not everybody, but people have known who he is. This is not some hidden book that just finally came back to light a few years ago. This one right here has been republished for over 50 years with new interpretations as certain specific. Hello, puppy, you kicking me again? She's kicking me again. She has learned that if she puts her bum up against you while she's laying down and you stop petting her, if she kicks you the right way, that you will just reflexively keep petting her to avoid getting kicked. Because nobody wants to beat up a little tiny 12-pound fluff ball of a puppy just to make her leave you alone. Anyway, I think there's definitely I do think he was the real deal. I think most of I think there's so many people that are trying to capitalize on it, like every freaking magazine. Oh, blah, blah, blah. What did Nostradamus predict this year? It's like you're making shit up to sell remember the National Enquirer and the Weekly World News? Like those weren't even real. They got sued so many times that they finally took the time to establish in court that their entire magazine was nothing but parody that did not report facts at all. So definitely a lot of shit there's definitely a lot of shit to wade through. There's definitely a lot that's interesting. I think I should have, you know what? I had the was gonnas. I call it the was gonnas. Like, well, I was going to do this, and something got in the way. Yeah, the fair one shall fight with the forked nose in duel and expect him forth. The exiles shall be reestablished, putting the stronger of them in maritime places. La Belle France, the fair one, shall expel the intruder, regaining peace and a strong navy. The third line also refers to the Kurds returning to Iraq. That makes no sense. There's no logical sense there. But if somebody, if all of a sudden something happens, yeah, it gets very weird very quickly. I think Nostradamus though was really, really fascinating. I think there's way more that was happening than just reading astronomical charts and making prediction, because if that's the case, why is he reading banned books and immediately burning them? It's like, yeah. Yes, he was an inventor, also was trying to figure out how to make gold using alchemy. That is one of the things that he mentions. It's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I burned the books so that people that were trying to transmute gold wouldn't be tempted to use occult practices to do it. Because if you're using an occult if anything that you do that the church disapproves of is suddenly a sinful or occult practice. And the church decided arbitrarily what was sinful and what was occult. End of story. So yeah, that got crazy too. But I don't know. I think if there is a code in this, and I think there is a code in this. I think it makes sense. If you look up that period in history, educated people, scientists and anybody who was studying anything they kept their notes in code so that they wouldn't have to worry about what the church thought. Then they could just say, oh, that was just gibberish. That was just me scribbling. They could say whatever they wanted. And the elaborate codes that people built up in order to take their notes, discuss their work, and not get executed for it was insane. So I don't know. I do think there's a code here. I think that enough of his predictions have come true that there's definitely I think he's the real deal. I think everything being in code, and I've said the word code like 400 times during this chat. I think that's the biggest problem. Everything's in code, and you have to be able to read archaic French. And I can muddle through with I actually can. I took enough French in high school that I can muddle through with I can muddle through with some of the basics, like les fugitifs, the fugitives. I can muddle through with a bit of basic French, and but there's no way. This is the French that they use. The French that they used 500 years ago is yet again a foreign language. You can't just say I took French in college, therefore I can read Nostradamus in the original French. It's like, no, you can't. If a French person learned English and you hand them Shakespeare, they're going to look at you and go, what the fuck is this? They might have a better luck with it because Shakespeare's more famous, but they're not going to have the same. Well, I guess Shakespeare's a bad example, but anything written in Old English. So anyway, Old French. I don't know. Where's my hat? Didn't you just get up?
No.
Where's my hat?
I don't know. You moved it. So
I don't know. I moved it.
Do you know where you might have moved it to?
It's either over there or I think it's just over there. I think it's just behind the Kleenexes. Anyway, so what do you guys think? Yeah, even Old English is super hard for most people. Oh my God, reading Shakespeare. Oh, like I used to always get A's in English in high school, which was like, just a couple of years ago, only a couple, mind you. And yet we the minute they moved to okay, guys, we're going to do Shakespeare. And I'd be like, what?
I don't know where your hat is.
Oh, no.
You moved it. It was up
Oh,
here.
it's right there on the bookshelf. God, you're dumb.
Murder.
I knew you'd say that. I don't call her names to be mean. I call her names to get a reaction. And what you doing? Just gonna stand there? Do I have to apologize? I'm really sorry.
Do you mean it?
No. We can keep this going all day. Love you.
I love you too. Sorry?
Want me to buy you something on Amazon?
You already did.
Oh. You tolerate me. I like that. She's not gonna burn my witch hat.
No.
Jovan says you're burning my witch hat. No, she won't burn the witch hat because then I'll burn her witch stocking that I made her.
You don't burn things.
Yeah, he's very whale song. He is so interesting. But between translation codes and being vague, oh my, I think it's like. I think the fascination with Nostradamus in English speaking countries is just the sheer volume of stuff, and then every now and again something comes true, and we're like, what the actual fuck? This is amazing, because it's this guy, how can some guy 500 years ago predict World War II and get Hitler's name off by only a single letter? Or predict the fire of the fire of London of 1666 and get the exact year. I get it. Fires were common back then. Everything was made of wood and there was no fire department to call 911. But the scope of it was, the reason why we still talk about it today is because the scope of it was just insane. I have to look it up. I think it burned down like a third of the city and like thousands of people died in this fire. And again, that might not sound as catastrophic in modern London, because I think modern London and all of its boroughs has close to 10 million people. But at that time, population of London wasn't that big. So that would have been a major, major catastrophe. So, oh, she's going to make Bruno sit on her lap. He's crying.
He wants to. He loves me.
He does love you. Okay. Yeah, Amethyst decided he was definitely, okay, he was, yeah, leave Shakespeare to Dustin. Oh my God. I so want him to do a chat on, Shakespeare and classical art are the two things that I want to I want to do a collab with Dustin and do a paranormal on that, because the stuff that's buried in classical art and Shakespeare, that's crazy shit. Yeah, you know what? Amethyst says it's probably accessing the Akashic records like Edgar Cayce. He was accessing something because there are so many references to him. For him, like tarot is called cartomancy, pyromancy. Like when we use tarot, we are accessing something. He continually talks about meditating over the flames, casting a horoscope, and then meditating over the flames. And yet he's criticized for not being able to cast a horoscope properly at a time when casting horoscopes was thought to be science. And yet, in spite of not being able to cast a horoscope, he's still giving remarkably accurate predictions for the time. He's doing something, he's accessing something, and it's not, having an awareness of astronomy and astrology was considered a vitally important scientific field at that time. So he's probably going to have more knowledge on that sort of stuff than most of us would have, than the average person, than the average reasonably educated person could expect to have in today's world. But that is not what he was tapping into. Because if that's what he was tapping into, there's no need to read banned books that can get you executed. But again, Jewish grandfather at a time when converting to avoid torture and execution does not necessarily mean you've given up your actual faith. And Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah and those practices were very much alive and well back then, more so than they are now. So he had access to something, some way, somehow, and maybe that's something that's also, he wasn't really doing astrology. No, he understood enough about it to fake his way through it, but that wasn't what he was doing, not at all. No. So yeah, I think he was the Edgar Cayce of his time. I really do. I think he was the Edgar Cayce of his time, and the political situation, the religious situation especially, just the climate that he lived in made it very, very difficult for him to be open about anything that he was doing. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm sticking with. But yeah. Yeah, I think the fact that it's super vague is what keeps it super fascinating. And don't forget, we have mass media bringing this guy to our attention every year. What does Nostradamus predict for 2019? What does he predict for 2020? Like, look it up, Nostradamus predictions 2020, and you will find thousands of them. Based on, you will find hundreds of predictions. This is what's going to happen this year. Or if you look up a particular quatrain, you'll find that it's related to predictions hundreds of years. It's crazy what they do. It's nuts. It's crazy. Yes, he wasn't doing astrology. He was tapping into channeling spirit guides and meditation. Yeah, he was channeling something. And again, it was the same as looking into a mirror. And there's a bunch of, now, Dustin knows a little bit about that. But just in the last year or so, there's been a bunch of people in the tarot world. And I'm saying tarot world just in case anybody else is in it. Everybody is welcome here, but just there's a lot, like, I mean, there's a lot of people that are in the chat that are also active in the tarot community. So that's why I'm making a tarot comparison. There's been several different tarot people lately who have been experimenting or discussing is probably the better term, with instead of crystal balls, looking into mirrors, things like that. So pyromancy is just part of that. Part of pyromancy, and that is probably a more predictive thing. Yes, it was a legal tool. Caroline says yes, because he used astrology because it was the legal tool to get around what he was really doing. Scrying. Yes, thank you, Donna. Scrying in a mirror, or water gazing. I don't know why I checked out on that. Well, because you're afraid of what I'm going to say next. Where's your glasses again? See?
No, apparently not.
No, you don't. But that's a good thing you're finally admitting it, though.
I'm gonna.
Shayla's gonna go eat that now.
No, she won't.
Bruno will. Oh my God, that dog will eat anything. He never used to be on a restricted diet, and now that he is, he's convinced that he's starving. But anyway, yeah, no,
Did he use water as well as fire to meditate?
He refers to it, but he doesn't. He refers to he refers to gazing into the flames, and he doesn't even say that. He uses using the tools of. He makes a reference to a Greek god that's associated with fire, or like he talks. He refers to burning the books as passing them to Vulcan, because Vulcan is a god of fire. So he won't even call it pyromancy. He won't even use the word, because just using the word is, well, you're acknowledging that you're performing witchcraft. We're going to burn you now. Yeah. So he refers to sometimes feeling that he is using, sometimes feeling that the fire blob. So he uses poetic references, poetic things, because he just can't mention. He can't even say it out loud, or he could be going to jail. So. Yeah, putting chemicals into water and breathing in it, that is oracles. The Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle of Delphi was a particular Delphi, but the other oracles around Greece, that's what they would do: put things into water or into a brazier to create chemicals. He just talks about burning certain herbs. He makes references, but it's definitely he's definitely doing pyromancy. How he's doing it, what processes he's using. He compares it to staring into a bowl of water, but I don't know what the beliefs were at that time, because we've got to reach back. Again, astrology then was considered hard science, and now it's astrology and astronomy were considered to be one single science, and then it was hard science. And now, of course, we know that they're two different things. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm a fire sign. Yeah. I think that honestly, like, I mean, he's definitely tapping into something, and it's not reading star charts. He obviously had some understanding and some skill with it, but not enough, or he wouldn't have been getting criticized for it openly, which is, again, dangerous stuff to do back then. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to offend the church. It's also dangerous to offend somebody who's protected by the crown. So the fact that he was criticized even a little bit for his lack of skill in casting horoscopes is kind of significant. Anyway, yeah, mercury and bloodletting. Yeah, no, he didn't use that. Mercury and bloodletting was not how he dealt with the plague. He got famous for dealing with the plague because he was like using, it's called they didn't know how to make pills back then. It was just all done by hand. Rose pills, vitamin C, and bathing, and getting the rats out of your house, cleaning your house to get the rats out, versus the old style practices of just throwing the bones on the floor at the end of the day and not caring what the dogs took a dump. So what's going on?
I toy for the boy dog, don't say his name, and he's throwing it around and playing with it now.
Ooh, Bruno's having a playtime. Okay, I have been stirring this hat for like ever and ever and ever.
I was gonna say, you've had your hand up that hat's
butt
for like.
I know, it's like I'm just getting it good and stirred. So anyway, yeah, I think there's definitely something there. I think that as time goes on, we'll start Oh, Bruno's beating up a toy, and
Go say his name.
oh, I said his name. I'm sorry. Bruno can have an amazingly. Oh my God, the boy dog can have an amazingly good time playing with a toy, but he's so timid and shy that he's afraid he's going to get in trouble or something if he's running around the house or something. And I don't know what the heck he thinks. So he's being adorably cute right now, and it's kind of, we don't get to see this very often, especially when the house is this cluttered and messy. He usually won't get running around. Anyway, Lisa's losing her mind over there. I gotta pull something from the hat. We gotta think about next week. I think as time goes by, any code that may or may not, I don't know, I think any code, he predicted that as his prophecies became more and more definitively having occurred, that it'll get easier and easier to decode his book and find out the rest of it. I think the opposite, honestly. I'm kind of thinking that the longer this goes on, the harder it's going to be to decode, because everybody's going to have their own thing. What do I get? John D.
Do you know anything about John D?
No.
Fun.
This one came up. John D is the next week's topic. I don't know anything about him, guys.
I got information about him in my occult book.
He was voted on by popular demand, so he got put in the hat. Because this is something else. Because sometimes we're going to come across stuff that I don't know anything about, so I get to learn new shit, which was part of the goal of this anyway. Yeah, Donna says, I can't wait to see if the next subject plays into the subjects we've been having. Okay, so who's John D? This is just a snapshot. We don't need to go crazy. Isn't he also a psychic?
John D, he's like an occult dude.
He's an occult dude. He's in Lisa's occult book. So we're now now we're moving from prophecy and prediction to the general to the occult, to occult practices, which is what we just. This is kind of like this is like the rut that I found myself in for this chat, is because on paper Nostradamus used these practices, but in reality he had to have been engaging in occult practices, because the math, not the actual math, but the math, it just doesn't add up. What he says he was doing versus what like, if you're an astronomer, you don't need to read occult books. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, for science. What the hell am I buying you? I can read, you know.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
What do you want? Pulls up. And why are you pulling up Amazon?
Because apparently there's a correlation with the English Magic Tarot for John D. That's it. That's all. Oh,
okay. John Dee was an Anglo-Welsh mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, and occult philosopher, and an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. And he's 1527. He was alive at the same time. So he was the English version. See, okay. So he was an Anglo-Welsh, so he was in England. I can't say England, but he was in the UK. Math, astronomy, astrology, and occult philosopher. So, and now anybody who happens to be in the UK can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, the Inquisition never really, there were shit happened, but it never reached that religious frenzy that it did in Spain and France. So a person could say, I study the occult in the UK and not be executed for it. So this guy is going to be fascinating. And he would have been alive at the same time. He was born in 1527 and lived until 1608, 1527. And Nostradamus died in 1555. So he's going to be in his 20s when Nostradamus passed away. So he basically is like, he picked up where Nostradamus, by the time Nostradamus passes away, this guy is probably just starting to become well known where he is. That's going to be a cool chat, guys. Oh, Liz Love Springs, fur nephew is Bruno too. Yeah, this guy, he weighs 10 pounds. He just needed he weighs 10 pounds and he's the most timid, passive dog you'll ever meet. If you stick your finger in his mouth, he'll panic to get away from you. He will never bite. It's like, it's crazy. He's such a boy. Anyway, Yeah, so a little bit later than Nostradamus, and England was Protestant, unlike the other countries which were Catholic. So this might pick up where this leads off, because when I got done looking up all of this stuff about Nostradamus, it's like Nostradamus was an occultist. He used astronomy and astrology as a cover, as an excuse, as he hid behind that to avoid prosecution, but he was a flat out occultist, and pyromancer, and so this is going to be fascinating. But yeah, Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church, and thus the Church of England was formed, and he was married to Anne Boleyn. Didn't he break from the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church refused to let him divorce his first wife? You know, cue murderous rampage of divorcing exes through execution. But yeah, Elizabeth I was their daughter. Okay. Oh, right. So you got, yes, because there's not only is it history fun times, but there is there's several, the Tudors. Catherine of Aragon, who was very Catholic. Yeah. So he couldn't get a divorce unless he changed, and he couldn't get a divorce without literally reforming the entire church in England to remove the Catholic influence. Yeah. So, oh, hi, Rochelle. You're kind of late because we're just saying goodbye. I'm sorry. So yeah, this guy is going to topically pick up where Nostradamus leaves off. So maybe it'll help us learn. Maybe learning about this guy will teach us a little bit about Nostradamus too. That'd be cool. That'd be really. I love you. Do you guys ever do a thing? You'll do something, and then you'll do something else, like draw a random name from a hat, and then you find out that it's like this winding path and it's connected. Okay, so maybe I don't know. That's what I think anyway. Philippa Gregory's book that was fictionized. Interesting to learn about him as a real human. Yeah, I love. Oh, the historical figure is blah. So what does this say? Yeah, so that's next week, guys. And I smell food. Are you sneaking off and starting food?
That's what I was doing.
She snuck off. She snuck away to the kitchen, and then she wanders back and brings this smell of food with her. And it's like I get to eat today.
Dinner.
I treat her like shit, and she's still gonna feed me. This is amazing.
I'll be right back. I gotta go spit on some things.
Hey.
What?
I'm saying goodbye now. Oh, John Dee encrypted all the information that Edward de Vere was actually the author of Shakespeare.
So maybe you should come out with Dustin the week after, or yeah.
Well, okay. Let's keep this on the table then. And next week, depending on how our chat about John Dee goes, we might just arbitrarily pick moving on to Shakespeare.
Yeah.
After that, or we can just pull from the hat and see where luck takes us. Shakespeare is in the hat. Shakespeare's in the hat. So if we want to trust to luck and see how things go. But for right now, John Dee's partner Edgar Blake, and they had a magic system going from memory. Yeah, we're gonna look all that up, Will Song. Honestly, I'd never heard about him until a few weeks ago. I didn't. Dustin told me a little bit, and we looked up a little bit, a very, very little bit. When I first pulled this out of the hat, I'm going, who is he again? But yeah, next week. So we'll go there next week, and we'll see what's what. But I'm going to say goodbye for now. If you like what you see, then go ahead and upvote and click the like, the subscribe, the thing, smash the buttons. And I will see you next week. Have a great day, guys. Day, night, evening, morning, wherever you happen to be.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.